Keanu Reeves is used to respect. Everywhere he went, people smiled, asked for pictures, told him how much they loved him. But this man didn't even blink. A royal guard. Not a look, not a hint of recognition. Just absolute, cold equanimity. Keanu smiled. Let's check it out. He took a step forward, his boots thudding against the rocks. The guardsman didn't move. What? Not even a nod. Keanu threw half-jokingly. Silence. Reeves reached out, lightly touched the guard's shoulder. Zero reaction. Harder. Still nothing. The crowd froze. Keanu frowned slightly. Were they really that immobile? He placed his palm on the guardsman's chest and pushed sharply. The body in the red uniform swayed, but did not fall. And then Keanu felt it. A white glove gripped his wrist with lightning speed. The grip was like an iron snare. Reeves froze. This man wasn't just immobile. He was in control of everything. London. Buckingham Palace. Crowds of tourists. Phones at the ready. Keanu Reeves walked across the square with a confident gait. He was recognized, whispered, pointed. Someone dared to ask for a photo. But his gaze was fixed on another man. A Royal Guardsman. Tall, in a perfectly ironed red uniform, with white gloves and a massive bear fur hat. He stood like a statue, not even blinking. Keanu stopped in front of him. Are you a real person or a robot? He said with a slight chuckle. There was no response. Reeves leaned closer. If you can hear me, blink twice. Silence. The crowd around them froze, watching this strange scene. Some chuckled, thinking it was a joke. Some watched warily. Keanu lightly nudged the guardsman in the shoulder. Zero reaction. Whoa, you're a serious guy, he muttered. Another push, harder. The guardsman didn't even sway. Now the crowd wasn't laughing anymore. Someone pulled out a cell phone and started filming. Keanu frowned. Excitement flashed in his eyes, the same excitement he gets before a trick on a movie set. He raised his palm and shoved the guard sharply in the chest. The crowd gasped. The red uniform swayed backward, but did not fall. The guardsman didn't take a step back, just a slight tensing of his muscles. But now something was different. The air felt heavier. The guardsman didn't move, but Keanu felt pressure. Not fear. Not threat. Control. This man was in control, despite his outward immobility. Reeves felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. His instincts, honed by years of combat training, told him to be careful. Somewhere in the crowd, someone whispered, "He's gone too far." Keanu took a step back, but just at that moment the guardsman moved. A white glove swept upward, fingers closing around Keanu's wrist. The grip was like a vice. Reeves realized instantly, this man wasn't just standing guard. He's a soldier. The crowd froze. Keanu met the guard's gaze. This wasn't a game now. The guardsman squeezed Keanu Reeves' wrist. It wasn't just a firm handshake. The grip was iron, like a fighter controlling an opponent. The crowd gasped. Someone raised their phone higher, filming every second of it. But Keanu was no mere tourist. He could feel the power. He knew when a man was just holding tight and when he was in control. This guy knew what he was doing. There was no anger on his face, no emotion, just discipline. Reeves smiled, trying to take a step back. It didn't work. The guard held him perfectly steady, not hurting him, but not letting him get free either. Keanu sighed. Okay, you win, he said loud enough for the crowd to hear. Respect, brother. Zero reaction. The guardsman stared ahead as if he wasn't facing a world star. Keanu tried to gently pull his arm out. Nothing. Was this guy seriously not going to let him go? Excitement flashed in Reeves' eyes. He jerked sharply to the side, using his knowledge of martial arts to slip out of his grasp. But the guardsman intercepted his movement, lightning fast. Clearly. Now Keanu wasn't just standing. His position was controlled. The crowd around him boomed. Damn, this isn't a joke anymore, someone muttered. Reeves looked straight into the face of the soldier, who didn't even blink. Had been trained to stand, but even more so to avoid a threat. At that moment, Keanu realized he had made a mistake. Keanu Reeves had fallen into a trap. Not the kind that screenwriters create. A real one. The guardsman didn't just stand at his post, he acted. The crowd around him was buzzing. Dozens of phones were filming, but no one was intervening. Keanu tried to break free again. A jerk to the right, block. A jerk to the left, and his wrist was under control again. The guard was incredibly fast. Reeves could feel it. This isn't a movie. There are no takes. A snap. Abruptly, with surgical precision, The guardsman intercepted Keanu's arm so that he was in a vulnerable position. Damn. He's reading my movements, flashed through the actor's mind. Reeves took a short breath. This wasn't a show now. This was a test. But Keanu was a fighter. He wouldn't give up. Suddenly, he took a risk. A dash. Putting all his physical training into it, he took a sharp step forward to knock the guard off balance. Mistake. The guardsman instantly seized the initiative. In one crisp motion, he spun Keanu around, forcing him to bend. His arms could no longer move, total control. The crowd murmured louder. Some shouted, "Hey, it's Keanu Reeves. Are you serious?" But the guardsman didn't react. He had been trained not to look at the crowd, not to listen, only to act by the book. And he did. Keanu found himself in a position he had never been in before. He was no longer in control of the situation. This guy isn't just standing there for beauty, he thought, clenching his teeth. The crowd didn't know what to do. But one person in the crowd realized what was about to happen. A veteran, an old man with medals on his chest, stepped forward. He had seen this before. This wasn't showmanship. This was real training. He realized that the guardsman was not attacking. He was waiting. Keanu took a deeper breath. Okay, if you're playing seriously, we'll see who's who. And that's when he went all in. What happened next is legendary. The crowd stood in suspense. Dozens of phones were recording every second. Keanu Reeves tried to escape the hold, but the guard held him like a steel trap. No pain, no aggression, just total control. He's not just standing there for beauty. Keanu tried to free himself, sharply, gently, in every way. But each time, the guard parried his movement. This man wasn't a statistic. He was a fighter. Reeves knew what a fight was. Had trained with the best martial arts instructors. But this man, he wasn't reacting. He was anticipating. Think. Keanu relaxed his muscles abruptly. The guardsman instantly felt the difference. The grip didn't loosen, but Keanu realized. Head gained half a second. And he took that chance. A downward jerk, a sharp twist of the body, a wrist rotation at an angle that would have made a normal man lose control. But the guardsman was no ordinary man. He had anticipated this move. His foot was in the right place, preventing Keanu from completing the move. Reeves froze. Another centimeter and he would have lost his balance. The crowd gasped. They saw that Keanu was only one movement away from defeat. Silence. And at that moment, the guardsman spoke. Enough. A muffled, cold voice. No emotion. No tension. Just discipline. Keanu blinks. The crowd is aghast. Guardsmen don't speak. Never. But this one did. So it wasn't just a situation. Keanu lifted his head. There was no anger in the guardsman's eyes. Just control. Not force. Not aggression. Pure discipline. Keanu understood. He smiled. Just a little. And slowly raised his hands. A gesture of respect. The crowd burst into applause. Keanu stepped back. The guardsman let go of him. But even then, he didn't move. This wasn't a show to him. This was a service. The crowd was buzzing. Hundreds of phones pointed at Keanu Reeves and the Royal Guardsman. But the guardsman stood as he had before, as if nothing had happened. But Keanu could feel it. It had. He looked at the man, without emotion, without a victory pose, without a shadow of doubt. And for the first time in a long time, he felt real respect. This wasn't just a man in uniform. This was a warrior. Keanu took a slow breath, raised his hand, and slammed his fist into his chest. A military salute. The guardsman didn't move, but Keanu could feel that he understood. The crowd froze for a second, and then an explosion of applause. People didn't expect this. They thought it was a show, that it was a prank, that it was just a normal street scene. But what had just happened was real. Keanu tilted his head slightly, about to walk away, but something changed. He felt it first. A change in the atmosphere. Something wasn't right. The squeal of tires. Sharp, loud, abnormal. The guardsman tensed instantly. His head tilted slightly. He listened. Keanu, too. A second of silence. And a shout. Guns. In an instant, the crowd exploded into chaos. People rushed to the sides, screaming, shoving, knocking each other down. Keanu turned around sharply. There was a man standing by the car. A hood. A long black cloak. One hand in his pocket. Keanu's eyes immediately caught on that movement. Experience told him one thing. This man was getting ready to get something. And he wasn't a tourist. The guardsman was already moving. lightning fast. He went from a statue to a compressed spring, ready to be thrown. His hand rested on his rifle, but he hadn't fired. Not yet. He was waiting. Keanu saw that look in his eyes. He knew this man could pull the trigger faster than anyone could scream. But he didn't just shoot. The crowd was panicking. "Get down," someone shouted. A woman fell to her knees, covering her child. A group of tourists rushed toward the gate, but they had already begun to be blocked by other guardsmen. It was an operation. Keanu didn't move. He knew that if he made a sudden movement, the guardsman would not save him. At that moment, the hooded man slowly raised his head and took his hand out of his pocket. Something glittered in his palm. The guardsman reacted instantly. The clang of a bolt. Rifle at the ready. Finger on the trigger. Keanu froze. The crowd didn't breathe. Another second and it could have been over. But then the man did something unexpected. The crowd didn't breathe. The guardsman froze, his rifle at the ready. Keanu Reeves looked directly at the hooded man. A hand came out of his pocket. Something glinted in it. A moment that was an eternity long. A gunshot? A knife? An explosion? But no. The man lifted his palm, and in it was a camera. Keanu couldn't believe his eyes. The crowd erupted in screams. "What the hell? It's just a blogger. He almost died for content." The guard didn't even flinch. His finger remained on the trigger, but he didn't lower the weapon. He didn't react to emotion. He was reacting to threats. The man lowered the camera and laughed. "Relax, it's a joke." Joking. The guardsman didn't even blink. But Keanu felt the rage boiling up inside him. This guy, he didn't realize what he had just done. The crowd wasn't laughing. They had just seen how in a second a life could change forever. All for a cheap video? Keanu took a step forward. "Are you out of your mind?" His voice was icy. The blogger seemed to only now realize had gone too far. "Hey, dude, it's content. Relax." Keanu didn't relax. Had never in his life wanted to hit a man as hard as he did now. But he stopped. Because he saw the guard. No emotion. No reaction. Just service. And in that moment, Keanu realized what true discipline meant. This man could have killed in a second, but he didn't. Because his job is to protect. Even idiots. Keanu put his hands down. "You're nothing." His voice sounded quieter than a gunshot, but harder than a punch. The crowd applauded. Keanu turned and looked at the guardsman. A deep look. Real understanding. Keanu slowly saluted. The guardsman didn't respond. But in that moment, he said more than words could say. Keanu walked away, and the guardsman remained standing. As a symbol, a reminder, that there are some people who never move, but who control everything. The finale.